Welcome, everyone. It's Michelle Henney here again. Welcome to the PaCT Share and Learn. We also have Jennifer Alexander, who is co-hosting as usual, and Lisa, as I was saying, is kind of managing our technical stuff, and she has a special role today that I will tell you about in a moment, something exciting and new. So you're all, I think, very familiar with how to use the chat box, and it sounds like everybody's very good at using the mute function on the phone, so *6 to mute and also to unmute, and we recognize that it takes a little bit of time once you have muted, that there's a bit of a lag when you're unmuting, so we'll give you, we'll wait till 8 if we put anything out there to give you a chance to unmute. Otherwise, please feel free to use the chat box. And Jennifer is monitoring that, and so she'll jump in if there's any questions there. All right. So we just wanted to put a little picture of spring there as inspiration because we're not sure if spring is actually ever going to come. So that's our inspiration for the day. So take it in. And a reminder, if you could take a moment right now, we know that sometimes people attend together around one computer. So just so that we know exactly who is tuning in, if you could just pop the name of everybody you're with in the chat box right now, that would be great. And then we know what our attendance has been like. Sing some elevator music or something while people do that. Or perhaps I'll just continue on. So again, just
sing
if you could pop that
Michelle.
in. What's that? Sing? You don't.
You
know,
can sing for us.
I'm not sure that that's really a good way to start a webinar. I think it might not result in good reviews. All right. So if you can do that just as we're going along here, that would be great. Okay. So today's agenda, again, we're all about trying new things in our Innovation Hub portion of PaCT, and today we're going to try something a little different. Instead of talking about specific components of test boxes, we're going to go more general and ask you some questions more about your experience to date. So these are the questions that are going to be coming up, and I'll review them now so that you can sort of think about them. And then when the time comes, you'll know exactly your brilliant thing you want to share. So first one is, what has been your biggest PaCT aha moment to date? The second one is, what has been your greatest PaCT challenge or crash and burn so far? Because we know that's what innovation is all about. If everything works perfectly, then you're not really innovating. It's kind of comes with the package. The third question is, what has surprised you most about your PaCT work to date? And the fourth one is, do you have any PaCT innovations you would like to share? So perhaps, maybe you're not that far into it yet, and there's nothing there yet. But maybe you have had some discussions about things that you might like to try in the future. Some things that aren't fully baked yet, but if you want to talk about them, that would be great. And then we'll close by talking about some upcoming dates. We have a couple notes to give you about some opportunities and a question to ask you about a date for the coaches prep session, and then of course questions are welcome at any time along the way. We will press those. So start thinking about those now. This is one of the new exciting things we're trying out. So we have the chat box with WebEx, but we also wanted to try Poll Everywhere. It has some features that might make this a little more interesting. One thing being, you can ask a question, and if you are all together and you're just huddling around one computer, if each person has a cell phone, you can type in your own thoughts and questions, and they're anonymous, and they'll come to us, and we'll be able to respond to them from Poll Everywhere. So to get us started, if everyone has a cell phone, if you could take out that cell phone now and just go to your text messaging feature on your cell phone. And then what you do is in the, if you start a new message, in the To section, if you type in 37607. And then in the message box, and I apologize, this is quite long. I set it up, and when you set up under the free use of Pull Everywhere, you don't get to choose the username. So you get my very long name. So M-I-C-H-E-L-E, Michelle with one L, H-A-N-N-A, all one word, 060. That's the message that you're sending to 37607. And once you hit send, you should receive a message back saying that you are now participating in this Pull Everywhere. So give everyone a moment to do that. Oh,
I'm just going to draw attention. I'm just going to draw attention to Michelle to the web link. So it's pollev.com/Michelle Hannah060. So even if you just pop that into your web browser, it gives you a screen that you can type in your thoughts and answer the questions that way. So it doesn't have to be by text. If you're on a computer and that's easier, then that could be another method.
Awesome. That, again, is why Lisa is here. Lisa knows quite a bit about Pull Everywhere. We were talking earlier, and we decided that if you send in a question or at any time using this, she'll monitor it. And then we thought she could be like Roz from Fraser, and she'll interrupt and say, we have a caller online too, or we have a question, and she will relay your question, and we can get to it right away. So now that it looks like I think a few people have got it up there, this is what we're going to do. Type in one word. So if you're sending another message to the same, you don't have to redo anything, but just in the next message box that comes in under your confirmation that you're in, type in one word that you kind of sums up what PaCT has been so far. What does PaCT mean to you so far? And then hit send.
So there are a number of words coming in. I'm not sure if it's registering on your PowerPoint through WebEx. So what I'm going to do, Michelle, is just share my screen because I have it up and running. So I'm going to take the privileges away.
Okay.
And then share my screen here.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
I like that my name ended up on that list. I don't think that was on purpose, but I like that my name, I am PaCT.
Something for your LinkedIn profile, Michelle.
Yeah. Wild ride. Oh, I love it. Interesting, new, amazing, learning, interesting, challenging, transformational. Oh, that's a good one. Great, fantastic. Okay, that's great. So now you all are able to use this, and Lisa, so they can at any time send a question or comment in, correct? And then you'll see it?
Yeah, so I'm actually just going to close this question. So if you haven't, I'm going to kind of count down. If you haven't added a word yet, this is your 3, 2, 1 opportunity to do so. And then, yes, in about 30 seconds, I will open the next question, which is just an open forum. So at any point, you can put in a question, you can put in a comment, even a don't forget to talk about this, and we'll come back to it or make sure we see that. At any point, you can text or use the web browser.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. Great. And again, if you have any problems, you can put it in the WebEx chat box as well, and someone will work with you on it. Okay, on to our stories from the field. Now, originally, you can see here, we had planned Life Medical Clinic from the Cloud River PCN was going to share with us some of their stories, but at the last minute, they had to back out, and so we were scrambling, and to the rescue came Justic Medical Clinic from Edmonton Southside PCN, and Stephanie Volkov, one of their coaches, is going to represent them and speak for them and do the talking. So Stephanie, are you unmuted and ready to go? I hope is on the line, period. I haven't actually seen her name now that I think about it.
I'll take a look.
But I don't see her on here.
Yeah, I don't see her name
on here. Sandy, do you have a sense of what she was going to share?
Not enough of a sense. Do you want me to text her? I'll just send her a quick text.
Sure. Okay. All right. In the meantime, though, we'll move forward and we can backtrack. So that first question that we wanted to put out to the group was, what has been your biggest PaCT aha moment? What's your big Oprah aha moment? So far, we expect there'll probably hopefully be a few as we go along. But in these early days, you have an aha moment.
And are you wanting people to respond then through the text?
You know, optimally,
or just chat or come off mute.
Yeah, like it would be super. I think if you could come off mute and speak, and then if you just have, you know, like one line or something you want to pop into the chat, that's good too. But optimally, it's easier to tell your story.
Michelle,
so there is a message.
Charlotte has a good one.
Ooh,
that
awesome.
she just chatted
it's in the chat box.
Yeah, so
okay.
Charlotte.
Would you be willing to come off mute, Charlotte?
I can.
Yay.
I'm not having very good voice today, so.
Oh, I see. Okay, well.
Sorry.
You know what? Okay, give it a try.
So, yeah, I guess one of our biggest things was the care plan. The staff really liked how it helped them to start conversation with the patients. And the physicians also liked it because they felt when they were meeting with the patient that they were actually getting to know their patients, especially since our physicians are new to the community. And we did have one patient, because Ariel had asked how they felt about the program or how they felt about the process. And one of them actually, she's been to the PCN a few more times after and has mentioned that it made her feel like she was heard.
Oh, fantastic. Wow. That's really great to hear, because that, of course, is our hope that that's what the care plan would do. So that's fantastic. Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. Anyone else have any ahas? Coming in, Lisa, on the poll everywhere?
Sorry, that was me coming off mute. No, nothing yet.
Okay. I know it takes a while to come off mute, and it also takes a while to type. You know, when you're typing. Well, for me anyway, it does, because whenever I'm typing under pressure, I make way more typos than I would want to admit to. Well, let's move on, and then if you think of something, it's no problem to share it later. We can always come back to it. Okay. Our next question was, what has been your greatest PaCT challenge? Or maybe there's been a specific crash and burn that the team has, maybe had high hopes thinking something would be easy, and then when you actually got into it, you found out, in fact, maybe it wasn't what you thought it would be, or there was a bit of a snag in the execution. And that is in honor of the Calgary Zoo getting panda bears. That would be a panda crash and burn for you. So again, just give it a few moments to open up. Like not having much luck getting hold of Stephanie, so something may have come up.
Michelle, this is Sue. I was wondering if we could maybe share one of the PaCT team, the AMA and AHS partnership group, one of our crash and burns, because we were, very from the start of this program, we're very set on including patients in the entire process. So long before many of us were even involved in PaCT, when the planning was going on, patients were at the table. And it was so important to us that we had the patient voice from the very beginning. And one of our crash and burns was one of the events, and it was the kickoff meeting that we had in Edmonton, within a location that was difficult to A, find parking, and B, to find and easily access. And for those of us who are busy going around to attend meetings in lots of different places, I'm directionally impaired, so that's always a challenge for me. But, we didn't even think twice about the venue that we were having this in, that it might be difficult for those patients that are coming from other clinics and from the steering committee to access the location. And so one of our patients actually really struggled and ended up not being able to find parking and having some medical issues because of the stress that built up, and so wasn't able to join us right away. And so it made us really reflect on that we really need to be thinking about when we're planning that we are really, really thinking about our patients that we're inviting and making it easy and accessible for them to be able to join us, because we so value their input. So that was a huge lesson for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I see there's a couple chats in here. Charlotte, I feel bad asking you to speak again. It sounds like you should be conserving your vocal cords. So maybe I'll read this one if you're wanting to stay on mute. If you want to speak, go for it. But I think I'll speak for you. So Charlotte says, losing part of the team to maternity leave and having to shuffle medical staff team around to rework the PaCT pathway. Ugh. In that process, we also moved our PaCT team to be part of the medical clinic. This has been our past 2 months' work. Well, that's huge. That must be pretty all-consuming, I would imagine. So, again, when you think it's going to work one way, and then life throws something in your path that deviates your course. So good for you, though, for staying on it, and sounds like you're still making progress, which is great. Kathy, sounds like you had a literal crash and burn. Do you want to come off mute and tell us about it?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. So we decided that in doing our patient validation, instead of having to use a lot of words, we'd start creating a patient registration card. So we were going to print a label and attach it to a business card, laminate it, and have the patient present it every time they came, and then we just have one quick confirmation everything's the same. And the laminator burnt out on the first day.
On the first day? Oh. Again, best laid plans. And
yeah.
Oh, well, that's great. Thanks for sharing. It looks like Samantha has one. Are you able to come off mute? Takes a little bit of time. Maybe, let's see, maybe not yet. Okay, so Samantha says, I find it difficult connecting as a full team, with me being the communication go-between. Then as the process evolves, constantly going back and forth to relay info and ideas. You know, and I have a feeling that's probably shared by others. Either you can chat in or open up your line. Does anyone else agree? Is that something that you're struggling with a little bit? Challenging getting your team together, and then because for those that aren't internal to the clinic, it's difficult. You're probably only seeing them maybe even once a month, and so it's difficult to communicate and get things done.
And if anybody has any ideas on what has helped with communication, you know, across a team as well, things that you guys are using that might be worth exploring for others, feel free to chat that in as well.
Mm-hmm.
Might as well be a crash and learn from it.
I like it. Oh, I see. Okay, so Sylvan Medical Health Center says we feel the same way. Need to make the time to connect. Yeah, and it's tough. We know, you know, it's like that conundrum. Part of the problem is that everybody is so busy, and so to add something in makes people busier, but by the same token, if you don't take that time to connect, you don't make the progress, and so it's challenging to find that balance of what's the right amount of time that's not going to be a problem, but is going to help us move forward. I see Kathy's added, she says, we're still on test box 1. Feel like we need to complete this task before moving on to the other test boxes, otherwise things will get lost or not completed. That's really I think, quite an insightful comment, and I'd love to hear how others feel about that, because this, for us as PaCT Central, as we're figuring out how to unroll this to the rest of the province, these are exactly the sorts of things we need to know, because we thought it would be pretty easy for you guys to just pick 1 or 2 things out and just give it a try. And but I get the sense that perhaps that would feel kind of incomplete. That are you finding it difficult to pick and choose 1 or 2 things? Are you wanting to do it all? Like what's going on? How are you feeling about that? The question, do you feel like it's reasonable to ask teams to do 1 or 2 things out of the box, or would you prefer to do everything in the box and have more space to do so? Teams would prefer that. And again, if anyone would be willing to come off mute and speak, that would be awesome.
Sorry, I thought you, hi, it's Kathy.
Oh, hi.
Hi, I've been talking and I thought you guys were listening to me.
Oh, no, we weren't, no.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Yes, I've been talking about how we were still on test box 1, and yes, I thought we had to do everything that was within that test box. I don't think it was really relayed that we were only to pick certain things to do. So we were doing everything in test box 1, which we're still on, but going forward, I realize now that we don't have to. But I do think what would be really, really helpful is that of all the things that you guys listed in these test boxes, what would be the most important thing for us to do? The main things. And then we would make sure we did those, and then if we had time, we might go back to the other stuff. But we're just I'm just finding within our group that there's a lot there in test box 1 to do.
Yeah, for sure, sure.
The good thing, though, is test box 2, a lot of it, let's say the one thing about patient validation, which is basically CPAR, we actually started that within our clinic. We have a completely separate working group that is doing CPAR. So that is one thing that we're kind of going to be able, hopefully not have to discuss so much impact because we already have a group doing that. The other thing I think that's in test box 2 is huddles, which is another thing we're also thinking about doing here in this clinic. So, I mean, hopefully test box 2 won't be as involved for us, but it's hard to say because we haven't even got there yet.
Right. Well, that's good to know. Yeah, and it's although like we are planning a test box where at the very end where it'll be sort of an open space to go back and go back to things that maybe you didn't get to, but we're also realizing well things kind of build on each other and it might not be that simple.
Right.
So yeah, there's excellent points, and we did actually try with test box 2. We were going to prioritize for you, like to say, if you do nothing else, do this one and this one. But then we found, even we were like, they're all important. Like we couldn't pick or choose one or two that seemed to be more important. Either. So we ended up taking that out.
It is quite important. However, the clinic that I'm in, we have over 8,000 patients. So if we were to take on, let's say, PaCT and doing the CPAR, well, that's not going to happen because we have a separate team just for CPAR. So building it into PaCT really is unrealistic.
Right.
To even start that process.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And, and we were hoping to build more awareness, but you're right, I think it might have read more as, this test box is to get you ready for CPAR, and that would be huge. Like that's way too much.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I would agree. And I think it's interesting too that some of the test box items I know for one team in particular that I've heard from is that they thought they had been there and done that, and just around confirmation of patients, and had the processes in place, but then when they actually started to measure it, realized that they were not where they thought they were or wanted to be on that confirmation rate. And so that spun off a whole cycle of other work to address, okay, well, we thought we had these processes in place. Clearly, we need to do some work here, and so that has created a whole other piece of work that they weren't intending to. They thought, oh, we've got this, right? So it's just interesting.
Yeah. Thanks, Sue.
And I would just add, like, thinking about when we were trying to pick which ones, what were we basing it on? We felt like we didn't have the evidence, and we were, these innovation hubs are a great opportunity to learn from you guys too about which pieces you think are critical, most valuable to ensure like future teams, targets. So if you do have suggestions around that, that would be really helpful. For, helping to inform some of that prioritization. But certainly, like, you know, I think we're trying to take that menu of options type of approach, depending on where you guys are at and what work you've done previously, where you think are those, you know, those hot spots to maybe address and to pull content, you know, based on that.
Absolutely. I'm just looking in the chat box here. I see our Sylvan Family Health Center. It says we have a large demographic of patients who would benefit. Our difficulty is creating direction on how to choose. And I think that's probably a common challenge. I guess we would just remind everyone that like a lot of things, we get excited, but PaCT is a marathon, not a sprint. And so the idea is you choose one population, one demographic to cut your teeth on and learn with, but then the goal is to continually expand, taking what you've learned on the first couple patient groups that you learn on, and then eventually expand it. And, you know, really the ultimate goal would be that every patient has a care plan. Every patient, even if they're a 25-year-old guy who doesn't have a lot of health problems, but perhaps they have a family history of colon cancer, and so their care plan is short, but it's about doing what it takes to make sure that he minimizes his risk, and you know, and that the physician and team has that information about what matters to him, and those sorts of things. So that's the dream, but of course we have to start small, and so that's just one patient population. So any comments from the other teams on that?
I was just going to add one quick thing. It's kind of like the journey to patient's medical home. It's a journey, and every step you take is a step forward towards that that goal of patient's medical home. And even those clinics that we would consider, oh my goodness, they are such a patient's medical home, they're always saying, oh, we still have so much work to do. And so I think that if you pick a population that you're passionate about, then that is going to take you one step further towards that, and it's going to make a big difference. So start small.
Great advice, Sue. I like that. Sometimes getting the team, you've got so many different things pulling at the team for their attention. So if you can, you know, pick a population that there's some passion around, that will help. It will help the team with working towards this if it's really meaningful to them. Any other comments on that?
I'll just add that it looks like Stephanie's joined, by the way.
Oh, Stephanie, are you on the line?
Hi, Michelle. I apologize so bad. I'm so sorry. My other over, and so I'm texting with Sandy, and yeah, I'm on, and I'm all yours now.
Oh, awesome. Well, not to worry, not to worry. So I think maybe what we'll do is I'm just going to wrap up with Charlotte's comment here, and then we'll get you to talk about Justic Clinic's crash and burn example. So Charlotte had written in here, yes, it is always a challenge to pick a time when all are available to meet, with physicians being on call at different times and dates. Messaging little changes through the EMR to the whole group has helped, but our panel manager is also having to make sure she goes down the hall to meet with each doc and team individually. Yeah, I can see how that would be time-consuming. And yes, it is always a challenge to pick a time when all are able to meet, with physicians being on call at different times and dates. Oh, is that what I just read? Sorry. Here we go. The one tool that we are really using is the enhancing communication. Fantastic. So that was from the test box 2, I believe. With all of our changes happening, it is greatly needed. Oh, 2, thank you, Charlotte. You're a very fast typist. Very good. That's great to hear. Fantastic feedback for us. And if you're able to come off mute at some point, we'd love to hear a little bit more about
Michelle, I'll also say on the poll everywhere, there's a nice comment that's we're all in the running for the Crash and Learn trophy. Just
that is fantastic, and that's the thing. And you know what? Honestly, people think, no, we don't want to win the Crash and Burn trophy. But you know what? The team that wins that trophy is probably the one that has been truly embracing the concept of innovation, because you really cannot separate innovation and failure. They go hand in hand, and it's that whole concept of failing forward. To do something new and different, there's going to be crash and burns. It's just part of it. So celebrate when you crash and burn. It means you're innovating. Good.
I was just going to add, because with Charlotte's comment, for example, that's a good example of where we were tempted to, you know, maybe decrease the value of some of that enhancing communication section, but yet it's been really valuable to this team. So again, another example of how it's really difficult for us to prioritize one over the other. It really depends on what's needed. The team feels that they, you know, need and have that level of importance is there to take that on.
Absolutely. I love Cindy has typed in innovation, like failure is the badge of true innovation, and we love our acronym. So the acronym would be fail, first attempt in learning. I love that. And Stephanie added fail small and fail often. Fantastic. And Stephanie, while we're talking about you, what were you going to share about the Justic Clinic's Crash and Burn?
For the Crash and Burn, so I see an emerging theme here. And so what I have for the Justic team is making time to connect as a team to review the plan going forward instead of one individual leading everything and communicating with team members one-on-one. So I think that is very similar to Charlotte's reply. Yeah, so definitely, you know, value in huddles and really having some dedicated time to kind of check in, see where we're at, what we're going to do today on this with this work, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some comfort in knowing that everyone's
that we're not alone.
Challenges. Exactly. Well, that's great. And of course, if anyone comes up with any miraculous solutions, of course we will share with each other and share the knowledge. All right, well, let's move along to the next one. What has surprised you most about your PaCT work to date? So, Stephanie, we'll stick with you here for the first part. What's happened at the Justic Clinic?
Sure, and I love this one. So with the Justic team, it was the eagerness of the MOAs to really be involved and to educate themselves about the topics. And I love Sandy's phrase of when you tell a high-functioning team about the why, then, you know, it really gets them to onboard. And I think there's such a valuable and often overlooked part of the team, and I think it's so great when they can feel like a valued member of the team. Yeah.
Oh. So what about the other teams? You relate to that Stephanie shared, or does your team have a different aspect that has surprised them so far? Or even as a coach, what has surprised you? While you're typing, I see Jennifer added, start with the why, which is always a good message. Yeah, absolutely.
And I would add and link it to like what's important to that individual, right? You know, whether or not it's their role or things that they value with their work, that type of thing helps to build that importance.
It's Stephanie here again, and I think something else that has surprised us with other teams is just the value of this work and the difference that it's actually making to patients, and that in itself can be something to motivate teams to continue with this work, and that it's actually, you know, making a difference to patients and improving their care.
Yeah, that's a great comment.
I was just wondering, like, do you have something to add, Stephanie, in particular to, like, what is that difference for patients? Like, what are you hearing from them what's the difference?
Well, I always go back to Heritage. Like the patient that was involved in making the little PaCT video, she said that when she visits her doctor, she feels like her doctor has gained all of this knowledge and this experience and expertise solely for her benefit. So it's really, it's like so powerful how she says it, but it's really, you know, going back to what matters to that patient and making that patient feel like they're the one and only thing on the doctor's mind when they come in for their appointment. And too, so with Heritage, you know, they're targeting the older adults, and they're targeting making sure their goals of care is completed and you know, among other things. But, you know, there'll be little walking groups, and they'll meet at the mall, and some of them are like, oh, well, I didn't get my call yet. And so it's actually, the care has just gotten to a totally different standard, in a good way, of course, and it's becoming a topic of discussion in the community. Like, well, have you gotten your call yet for your care plan or for your one-on-one or your home visit? So
that's awesome. Oh, that's what we like to hear. And I think you're right. That's a key part. Like, if the patients aren't aware that it's happening, then there's probably still a little bit of work to do, but that's great that it's generating some excitement. Charlotte says the excitement / eye-opening experience of our two physicians after their first PaCT meeting with one of their patients. And so I hate to ask you to talk, Charlotte, so if you can type, because I know your voice is, but that's so enticing. What was their experience?
Tell us more.
Yeah. It's a cliffhanger. Give Charlotte a moment to type. They were just excited to learn so much about them. Oh, so learning about their patients, isn't that interesting? Wow. And, you know, I would hazard the bet that what we may end up hearing as we get further into this, it may be that physicians say things like, I'm remembering why I went into medicine, because I think sometimes the busyness of their practice, they don't get a chance to really form that relationship in the same way with patients that they probably thought they would when they went into family practice. So really that's what it's all about, and through the care planning process, they do get that deeper understanding of who the patient is and develop that richer relationship. So. And Charlotte says, not just one concern. Yeah, absolutely, because that's sort of been how it's evolved, hasn't it? Anyone else have thoughts on that? Have you heard anything from the physicians who are, or others who are going through the care planning process and asking these questions?
So, Michelle, this is Sue. I've heard from physicians who have started sharing care plans with other providers in the medical neighborhood. So it's sharing beyond the patient and the physician, and using it to share with others who are involved in the care. And the surprise, I think, for one physician in particular was the response from those community providers. And, for example, a pharmacist who in the past didn't have a lot of correct information about the patient, but once they received a copy of the patient's care plan, they had much better information about the patient. And so the input to the physician was very, very helpful to this physician, where in the past it may not have been because that pharmacist didn't have the complete picture. And so this physician in particular would invite, would share the care plan, but also invite input saying this is a living document, would love to hear from you. And so I think that's been the biggest surprise. And this physician has heard from a number of care providers who are, loved the care plan. We've reinforced the patient's chosen goals with them while they were here at the diabetes clinic. So it's really helping that informational continuity as well as that management continuity. And so I think that was the biggest surprise, is why haven't I been doing this before? So.
Fantastic. While you were talking, I felt compelled to type hallelujah into the chat box, because that is really so much what it's all about, making the care plan this living document that has purpose. Beyond just that one appointment, right? And that is a key point. So patient-centered, when they don't have to tell their story every time that they've got this document that everyone can have access to. So fantastic. Anything else before we move to the next one? Jennifer typed your comment, Charlotte, tie nicely with some content built for test box 3. Oh, a little teaser there. The value of spending a bit more time to find out a bit more about the patient, and the time savings later when creating plans and actions. Great. All right. So the last question we posed was, do you have any PaCT innovations? Oh, would you like? That should say you would like to share. That would be a crash and burn example. Put that in there just, so that everyone could see an example of what that would look like on purpose. And so we know that you probably haven't had a lot of time for innovating actual tools just yet. We were fortunate, Riverside Medical has shared some of their tools, and we have posted those on the PaCT website. So again, as you're working through, if you come up with something that's really working for your team and you think it would potentially benefit others, let us know, and we would love to post it so that others can take it and work with it. So Stephanie, does the Justic Clinic have anything that they wanted to share that's something they've innovated related to PaCT?
Actually, no. No, this is one of those questions that I was really racking my brain, and no, nothing comes to mind on this one. I'm curious to see if anyone else does.
Yeah, we knew this one it might be a little early, but let's see. So Monica says, I love how our team came up with providing part of the care plan, or providing part of the care plan to the patient beforehand, so I guess mailing it out, so that the patient is prepared for the discussion. Fantastic. Yeah, that's a really interesting approach. And we'd love to hear more about that, like how that's working, if that's something that they feel is sustainable, that they're going to continue moving forward, and as they, if they hit any snags, how they get around those. So fantastic. Anyone else? Anything coming in on the poll everywhere, Lisa?
Nope, nothing else.
Michelle, it's Lori Choma. I've been here listening the whole time and on all of the share and learn. So I have a question about sharing PaCT innovations, and I peer in on what's going on with PaCT, and I'm on the PaCT team doing some of the EMR work. And so part of what we want to do through the PaCT initiative with the Innovation Hubs is collect some of the innovations and best practices that you're doing in the EMRs, so we can, when the next phases come in, that we have more to share. We're well aware that we didn't have a lot to bring to the Innovation Hubs, but we know that you would be innovating with your EMRs along the way to make this work happen, whether it be just some of the stuff around data standardization or mapping or cool templates that you were building yourselves or workarounds or ways to identify your patients that we hadn't thought of yet. And so we're looking to bring some individuals from the Innovation Hubs together to do some of that sharing. So I just wanted to put that out there. That's probably something that will be coming to you in the next few months to say, what have you been doing? How can we collect it so we can share it beyond your clinic and into the subsequent PCNs and clinics who decide to take on PaCT work.
Yeah, fantastic, Lori. That's great. And I just wanted to just say that it's okay if your team isn't at the point of doing any real innovating yet. We recognize it's early days and a lot of the groundwork is still being done. So we just want to keep the awareness out there that you know, it's sort of natural once they've had enough time trying something out the way perhaps it's delivered to them, teams will naturally start making things better. And so that's when we'll be really interested to learn about it. And it may be, you know, even after our Innovation Hub time together is over, we'd still be interested in hearing from you and what the teams have continued to do, because innovation does also take time. This has been a very short period of time, so we recognize that there's no pressure at all. All right, I see we've got about 8 minutes left. So any last thoughts on this this particular section on innovations? I think that was about 8. So I want to try another aspect of the poll everywhere. And again, and Lisa, you may have to share your screen once you've got the answers. But this one is just, if you wanted to give us, this is a chance to share a thought, a comment, a question. Maybe it's a bigger sort of question moving forward that hasn't been addressed. Maybe it's a comment on anything, on these share and learns, on PaCT so far with your team, or just a general musing on PaCT or life or whatever strikes you. So just a comment for us that we can collect in the poll area. Once Lisa has got a few, she'll. Perhaps it's a comment on whether you thought having the poll everywhere was valuable compared to just having the WebEx box. It seemed like we were making good use of the WebEx box. So this is another thing we're just trialing with you to see if it's worthwhile using the poll everywhere as well. How's it going, Lisa?
Oh, they're starting to come in, so I'm just going to take the ball back, Michelle, and then I will. Okay, there you are. So we have a couple. It says the PaCT Ideas Twitter feed to share ideas and innovations as they arise between Share and Learn webinars. A lot of interest in this work, and what we learn will have an impact on many fronts. I see the opportunity for huge shifts in our system when I hear everyone share what they are doing. exciting to be part of something like this. The work is exciting. Wishing for more time to focus. I love the Wordle. The Wordle. Oh, that's a new one. I didn't realize that's what it was called at the beginning. It's a great temperature check. The other thing I'll just mention about the Poll Everywhere is it is anonymous as opposed to the WebEx chat box. Obviously, your name is attached to that, but if there's something that maybe you're not comfortable sharing or you think it's controversial or could be, then this is another oh, so there you go. It just says I like at least anonymized. I wish I could take credit for that, but I don't. It's just the Poll Everywhere function is anonymous.
I'm going to get this one on a T-shirt. So much work, so little time. That could be the PaCT motto, I think.
There you go.
It's really interesting, the comments on time, and if I reflect back to Charlotte's comment too about, you know, the difference of finding out a bit more about the patient and what matters to them, that type of approach, and how that made some changes in the rest of that appointment. I think it's the same with these teams. If you guys, if there's time spent up front, really thinking about what's important, you know, what is it that you guys as a team value, and feel that it would be important to work on, that might help too with that prioritization and not feeling overwhelmed, but really being a bit more focused in that approach, knowing what you want to focus on.
Great.
Absolutely.
Well,
thank you for those. Those are great. We're going to keep those. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to.
Oh, I've got the power again. There we go.
You have the power.
So just to ask a couple minutes on what's next. Actually, before we do that, I'm just going to back up here. A couple things. If you could type in the actually, you know what? I'm reordering that. Never mind that. The first thing, Cindy Grand is going to just quickly tell you about an opportunity. So Cindy, I'll pass the floor to you for a moment.
Oh, thanks, Michelle. Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know that the Quality and Safety Summit has their call for abstracts out. So this is a 2-day summit that's held in October, and this year it's in Calgary. And there's 2 streams that they're looking for abstracts for. One is transformation through innovation. So that's kind of asking for your innovations and things that you might be doing differently. And then the second stream is successful quality improvement projects. And for neither of the streams, your journey doesn't necessarily need to be complete. They're just looking to show off what you've done so far and what could be possible in the future. So the abstracts are 350 words. They are due April 11th, and I'll pop the website or the web link into the chat box. It is open to anybody. I think a lot of this work would be relevant, but I know that there is so much work and so little time. If anybody's interested in submitting an abstract, though, certainly your IA can support and I can support, so I just wanted to bring it up as an opportunity.
Fantastic. That sounds really exciting, Cindy. So I hope that some of the teams are able to take you up on that. That would be great. So I see Cindy's popped that link in there, and I see Charlotte has just wanted to share one last thought with the group. One of the biggest things we are learning early is that we need to make sure that our system will continue to work even if one person leaves. Oh, yes. That is huge. And interestingly, another little segue for what is coming in test box 3. There will be a component in there about the importance of cross-training. You know, it's one thing to distribute the roles and responsibilities, but it's also really important to make sure that all of the knowledge doesn't live with one person in a particular area. So thank you for that. That is going to be part of what's coming, so fantastic. And now, with 1 minute left, the one thing I wanted you to type into the chat box for coaches on the line, these are the dates coming up. Now, you'll see for test box 3, The coaches prep session is June 8th, and that is actually not set in stone. So my question to you is, normally we have them on Thursdays, but this time we have to move it to either a Friday, which would be June 8th, or Monday, which would be June 11th. So please type in which you would prefer, the Friday or the Monday, because I know perhaps some of you don't work on Fridays. So we'll go with the majority if you can take a moment and type that in. In the meantime, while you're doing that, though, just a reminder, the next Share and Learn will be May 31st. And again, we'll probably keep it more of this general focus versus being very specific on what the items were in the test box. So hopefully that's something that you've found helpful. And again, if you have a moment to type in the test box, if you found this format better, and we might experiment with even a couple other different ways to approach it. Then other dates to be aware of are either June 8th or 11th, depending on how the poll comes back. And the next Share and Learn after that will be July 26th. So getting into the elusive summer, assuming that it will actually appear. So it is precisely 1 o'clock, and thank you, everyone, for your participation. We've had some great learnings and a lot that we're going to take away with us. So thank you so much. And again, if you have anything that comes up before the next Share and Learn, you can always send a message through your improvement advisor. So if it's a team, talk to your coaches who can transmit to the improvement advisors who can share it with PaCT Central. And otherwise, we look forward to hearing from you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Michelle, do people have to type leave in the text box?
Yeah, I think that's what the instruction is correct, Lisa, to end the Poll Everywhere session. You type leave.
Yeah, I'm just going to close out the poll, so it doesn't matter anyway.
Okay.
Really.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. And then again, we will let you know what the date ends up being. So Friday or Monday really is all you need to type in there. Friday or Monday, or doesn't matter. And we'll go with that. Again, thanks everyone, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, Michelle and Jen. Bye-bye.
Bye.